At the very beginning of today's service, in the bidding prayer, we prayed words that are beautiful and filled with meaning, and yet they are easy to pass over quickly. We asked that we might gather this first Sunday of Christmas in care and delight, that we might prepare ourselves to hear again the message of the angels, that we might go in heart and mind even unto Bethlehem, and see the thing which has come to pass. And through our lessons and our carols today, we have done just that. We listened as our scriptures carried us from the first ache of our human story through God's promise of light and life spoken into darkness, to a stable not fit for a king, out into open fields where angels sing to shepherds. And as we hold these sacred stories, and before we rush to respond to them, I think it's worth pausing to notice something important. The shepherds don't begin with certainty. They don't understand all that's happening, and they do not arrive at the manger with answers. First, they hear, then they go, and then they see. They arrive at the manger not as heroes or theologians, but as ordinary human beings, drawn by curiosity, or maybe their own longings, or maybe by the possibility that something holy has broken into the world. Christmas, at its heart, invites us first not to take action, but to sit in awe. Awe for what God has chosen to do, and awe for what God and who God has chosen to be. Our God has not chosen to be distant or untouchable, but small enough to be held and vulnerable enough to be entrusted to human care. This is the fulfillment Isaiah dared to imagine, and which is echoed in the Gospel of John. Light breaking into darkness, not as a spectacle or with force, but as a child born into the world who will stand for justice, who will lead with grace and righteousness, and who will save God's people. Now, last Sunday, in our children's Christmas pageant, we rejoiced as the angels came, speaking those first words to the shepherds as they announced good news. And at our Christmas services this week, voices were raised singing, "Angels we have heard on high, Gloria in excelsis Deo." But why do the angels sing? Perhaps it's because heaven cannot stay silent. Why do the shepherds go? Perhaps because their curiosity outweighs their fear. And so they go, and there, standing before the child, soaking it all in, unsure of what's happened, but somehow open enough to have sought him out and receptive enough to let the story meet them where they are. The shepherds stand. And I think, my friends, this is where Luke invites you and I to linger. So this morning, because it's still Christmas, this morning, let's not rush. Let's not rush through Christmas. Let's not hurry past the wonder of Christmas. Instead, let's rest here a while. And allow the story of our incarnate God who came to dwell among us and chose to be with us. Let that story sink in and settle into your bones. Give yourself some permission to be curious about the stories, permission to admit that you don't have all the answers and to be okay with that, because there's a lot of sacred mystery found inside our sacred stories. Give yourself permission to claim hope, not as wishful thinking, but as the reality God insists on placing among us. God brings us hope, gives us hope, fuels our hope, and wants us to hope, to not lose hope. Take time through the rest of your Christmas season to rest inside these sacred stories. Your response to God's story, whatever feels good and right to you, will come to you in time. But for now, while it's still Christmas, like the shepherds, you are simply invited to be here and to soak it in. So hold it tenderly in your heart. Merry Christmas.